everyone, welcome to another movie review. We have the sequel to the 2018 anti-villain or anti-hero movie. So, let's talk about Venom. Let there be carnage. So Tom Hardy returns as Eddie Brock, who plays the main character who is infected by a symbiote, and they live together. The symbiote's Venom. Tom Hardy is Eddie Brock. He seems to be getting notices from a returning Woody Harrelson from the post-credit scene of Venom. It's telling him he wants him to give a message to the world. Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassidy, who eventually becomes Carnage. He eventually meets Eddie, deceives him into coming too close. He tries to do his serial killer thing. He bites him, gets infected with the symbiote, and becomes Carnage, and we have a movie. A lot of this movie is really going to really depends on how much you enjoyed kind of the first one and how much you enjoy the banter between Tom Hardy and the CGI monster that's not in front of him, Venom. I didn't like the first one, and I don't like this movie. I really despise this movie. Not as much as you would think, but it has lots of problems. Let's go through some of them. One, the dialogue. The dialogue is terrible. I think this is made by people who only think they know what 10-year-olds talk like. It's a lot of back and forth because most of the movie is Venom interacting with Eddie Brock and just kind of them being bitchy towards each other. Another problem with this movie is the story structure. This movie is set up into 3 phases. The first phase is a buddy comedy between Venom and Eddie Brock. The second phase is a breakup between Eddie Brock and Venom. Then the third act is your big CGI battle. The problem with that is it's 3 different tones. Then on top of it, you have as many as 4 stories being told at the same time. You have Woody Harrelson's character, Cassidy's story being told. At one point you have Venom's story being told. At another point you have Eddie Brock's story being told. And then you have the girlfriend, Annie, played by Michelle Williams, being told. And then we have this fifth character by Naomie Harrison, who plays Screech. Even though she doesn't get as much development as everyone else, that's still you're bouncing all around all over the place. The problem is, if you don't like the Eddie Venom stuff, you're going to be bored for a lot of the movie or just rolling your eyes. I'm not going to lie, Cassidy stuff, Carnage's story is way more interesting. A lot. Like, I think you could have really made a whole movie just around Carnage and Screech, because there's something very interesting about their dynamics. They met each other as kids, then they get separated for this long period of time, but they still held their love for each other and their want for each other. Then when they finally meet up, there's this huge issue because of her powers and what happens when she uses them, and Carnage, and what happens between Carnage and Cassidy. And there is a seed for a whole movie just with those 2 characters. Woody Harrelson knows exactly what movie he's in. He is playing it insane. He kind of reminds me of his character from Natural Born Killers. There's also this weird, very weird, out of nowhere idea. I don't know who thought it up. The movie opens up with Cassidy and Screech as teenagers. And yes, they do get a teenager to play Cassidy as a young kid. The problem is, they use Woody Harrelson's voice now for the teenagers. So it's like, why would you do something like that? There is this cool sequence though, where Harrelson's character writes a letter to Tom Hardy's character, Eddie Brock. And he reads it. While he's reading it, the whole message is being told as if it's a drawing. And that's actually a cool idea. It never happens again in the movie, so it's kind of pointless. But it was a nice way to show the audience what he's reading. I'm not going to get into the logistics on how that whole 4 or 5 minute sequence was written on a card like this, where most of it looks like it was just drawings. But yeah, let's not get into that. Another thing wrong with the movie is it's so quick paced. It's so rushed to get to the end. There's a lot of things that are never explained. Let's go through them. How is the symbiote red? Why is Venom afraid of red symbiotes? If Cassidy got the powers from Brock, why is Carnage stronger? And there's a bunch of other questions about this movie, but this movie just moves so quickly. It kind of wants to blur you to the fact of, don't ask questions, let's hurry up to the next scene. And it does that. This is a PG-13 rated movie. I don't know if it would have been better if it would have been rated R. There's a lot of off-screen killing. And this is a very funny thing I've never noticed before. This movie says the word shit 5 times and says fuck once and gets an R rating. I mean, gets a PG-13 rating. So, as long as, I guess, you don't show blood and death, you're fine? I don't know. That's just me. I just didn't care for the whole Eddie stuff. Like, Tom Hardy, I guess I get a lot of people like him in this role. He's too goofy for me. I don't know what it is, but I just don't buy him as Venom. I also think the CGI for Venom still kind of is shaky. It was better for Carnage, especially when he has to do his whole prison breakout scene. This movie did also do the cardinal rule of having a scene that's in the trailer. It's not in the movie. That particularly pissed me off. Just because it should have been in this movie because it is so goofy. And this is what the movie's going for, being goofy, being lighthearted, despite the fact that people are eating each other, people are getting stabbed, things like that, you know, for kids. I'm gonna leave that in. If I can say, like I said, the couple of good things I like it is Woody Harrelson's performance. I like Naomie Harris's performance. I kind of wish they were the focus of the movie, but the movie was so intent on, you know, getting to the end so we can set up part 3, which they do. Also, there is a post-credit scene. Do not let anyone spoil that for you. It's a really interesting scene. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's probably the best part of the movie. That Woody Harrelson and that one sequence when Brock is reading Carnage's letter. The last fight scene was okay. I never got the dynamics of how powerful. Venom is scared of Carnage for some reason. Carnage is more powerful for some reason. Once again, they never explain it. They actually don't explain a lot of things in this movie. But yeah, that was Venom. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't like the first one. I think this one's a little bit better just because it was so much shorter and it was less convoluted. This movie literally wanted to blind you with fast-paced editing just so you don't have to ask questions. I literally walked into the theater at 5 o'clock with trailers, with the commercial for AMC Prime and the new Nicole Kidman AMC commercial. I got out of there before 7 o'clock. So even with commercials, it's less than 2 hours. That's how quick it goes. And yeah, if you're not on board for the stuff with Eddie and Venom, you're just not going to enjoy this movie at any time. I'll give this movie a 4. I think Woody Harrelson was definitely chewing up scenery. But also there was so much more intrigue in his dynamic with his girlfriend, and I think there's something there. They're not going to examine it. I won't say why, because that's a spoiler, but yeah, they're not. So that's my review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people like this one. I know a lot of people like the first one. That's good for you. It's not my cup of tea. So until next time.
That you want me to, but